Welcome to the Tactical Business Podcast. I am your host, Wade Skalski, and today I am joined once more by John McCoy. John, how are you?
Well, I'm 42 years old and have an infant, so I'm working on, being coherent.
It's not your birthday today, is it?
No.
Oh, all right. I was like, that is commitment to the podcast. So not only is it an infant, it's a newborn. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How approximately how old?
10 or 11 days.
Good Lord.
I can't remember. 11. There we go.
I can't believe that we got you today. So we're gonna get right to it and enjoy our time with you today. But as we are wont to do, we're going to do sort of a current events podcast, talking about some articles that we've read. But before we get to the articles, how are you feeling about the Trump presidency and its impact on firearms? Have you noticed a difference at all?
No. Well, I have noticed that in the news cycle, it's definitely been more entertaining. So that's good.
Yeah, but it's interesting because, I'm the firearms people that I talk to, they always talk about the Trump slump the first time, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if there's going to be another Trump slump this time. But I feel like the world is a lot more uncertain now, right?
It's very unstable.
And so It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. There's never a bad time to start a firearms business, in my opinion. Some of the best businesses in the whole wide world were started during recessions. So
sure.
If anyone out there is hemming and hawing about starting a firearms business, don't hem and haw anymore.
Exactly. I second that. Let's just hope for not a repeat on the bump stock ban. Let's just, let's not do that. Pump the brakes there, boss.
I don't know. I'm like, I'm like, okay, let me point this out. I'm always against all regulation for guns. You should be able to buy any gun you want.
Yes.
You should be able to mail order guns to your house. Obviously, I believe that. I just don't know what percentage of people use a bump stock. Do you have a bump stock, or did you?
No. I was going to say that if he was going to ban them, it should have been for them being super gay, not for them being, particularly dangerous.
Oh, got it. I was like, yeah. And again, like, okay. And I don't want to offend anyone. Right. So, by being like, oh, Wade's for two-way regulation. I'm not. Right. But at the same time too, is like, we are in a political environment. We need to pick our battles. And so I don't know.
Totally.
I don't know if the bump stock is the hill to die on. Right.
It's definitely not. I mean, it was just a goofy design to begin with.
Well, that's one of those things where the market is getting pretty sophisticated and the offerings out there, some of them are getting kind of saturated. So
yes,
people are sitting around with their big brains going, what can we invent that we can sell? Right.
Yes, exactly.
And it's also like the transition that I've seen to precision shooting, because I think when we started the podcast and sort of talking together, or when I started the podcast as the host, I guess it's been over a year now, there really wasn't a lot of talk about precision shooting at all. And then all of a sudden, almost like on a dime, all of a sudden, all this precision shooting stuff coming. It stopped being niche, right?
Yes.
That's the thing, is like, it was super niche back in the day. Obviously there were people doing it and teaching it, but it didn't become mainstream hardcore until like this last year, where it really kind of burst into the scene. And I think that's because the AR market is like so saturated. Oh,
it's insane. I mean, which is cool if you want to, you want a kicker gun to throw in your truck for $300, you can actually buy one. That's the good thing about it. But yeah, I mean, the market on ARs it's so crazy that, they had to pivot to something else, because what else can you do with an AR that hasn't already been done?
Right.
That isn't just a straight up copy off of someone else.
Right. Well, I mean, and I think that's the AR's greatest strength, which is basically like a Lego set, right? Is also kind of one of its weaknesses, because then there's no barrier to entry where anyone can do it.
None.
Right?
Yep.
So that's why you have, Palmetto Arms basically saying, we're going to make a very solid AR for like whatever, $400, $500.
Yeah, it's cheap.
And your normal person will never need to replace that gun. A normal person is not going to put 20,000 rounds through that gun.
No. Well, think about it. I mean, how expensive putting 20,000 rounds through an AR is.
Right.
No one's going to do that.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
And even if they did, and you needed a new one, you just buy another one.
Yeah.
Buy two for $1,000 and have one as a backup. Right. So
if you actually shot out your barrels, I get emails almost daily from all the different vendors for AR-15 barrel sale, 50 or $60 for a totally high quality barrel.
Yeah.
You know, a barrel that would have been machining has gotten so good now that a cheap barrel now is like a match grade barrel from the 70s or 80s. It's just machining technology is so good.
Yeah.
And it's so fast. So
Well, and I
yeah.
think there's this return. I think there's this return to simplicity too. Is I think is what's happening too. Is a lot of people they went gooch on a lot of different things. Everybody put a red dot on. Everybody, is doing their sights. And now, honestly, what I'm doing is I'm just going back to iron sights for everything.
Iron sights is fun.
Yeah,
It really is.
I'm actually getting a new for my Glock. My Glock 19. I'm getting a new slide for it. I'm going to keep the slide that I have that has the red dot on it, but I'm going to get another slide for it that's just iron sights, and I'm going to go back to the iron sights because I just
Can we go back to stick shifts and pickup trucks? Can we do that if we're going to go back to iron sights?
Dude, everybody wants the Helix, man.
They say they do. They say they do, but I guarantee you that in America, within 5 years, you just end up with a $45,000 Tacoma again because they say they want the Helix.
Right. Yep.
They don't want the Helix. They want the idea of it. They still want a $45,000 pickup for 15 grand.
Well, my second truck was a work truck that came off of a construction site, so it had like 100 and I don't know 60,000 miles on it or whatever. But it was a Chevy Silverado, right?
Like just the work truck package.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that thing, I drove that thing, and I mean, the best truck I ever had was a Ford F-150 with the suicide doors, which is a 2006. I never should have sold that truck. I wish I still had that truck, and that I miss that truck. But yeah, you don't need your truck to be able to do the dishes. You know what I mean? Like just get a truck.
Yeah.
But I agree. I feel like that's the Gen X in me coming out. And
no. I'm transition point. I was born in 82, so I'm like right there on that line. I could claim millennial or X.
We're an anti-transitioning podcast, my friend. So you have to pick one. You are whatever. Just pick Gen. I would pick Gen X between.
I would pick Gen X. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the 80s. I'm definitely more Gen X than millennial. So
yeah, I mean, the 80s. Peak America was like 1976, 1977, 1978, 1979, right? So anything in that range, that's where you want to be. You claim it.
Agreed.
Make it yours. All right, well, let's get into our article. So,
all right.
You go ahead. You start.
I'm actually going to start with the second one about the 21 Sharp. And this was a very cool article. It really interested me. So basically, Winchester is they've been trying to build. You can't build a 22 long rifle with a non-lead bullet. All right. So they're all either just lead, and you know those ones when you put them in your pocket and you have lead dust all over you, or they're jacketed. And they wanted to produce a rimfire that was compatible with, not compatible. It's basically the same case as a 22 long rifle. It's necked a little differently, but so that you could take any 22 long rifle, for like Savage or if you're Ruger or any of those companies, and all you have to do is just drop a different barrel on it and you can produce them. So they wanted to have a very low footprint. So it wouldn't cost much more to develop, and they could use most of the same tooling they already have for 22 long rifle stuff. So what they ended up with in this 21 caliber Sharp is a completely non-leaded rimfire that is going to still be cheap. So the guns will have the same price point as, in Savage, when they put a 21 Sharp out there, its price point is going to be the same as the 22 long rifle. It's basically the same rifle. But you're going to be able to have a highly accurate that has a projectile that is not leaded. So really cool design. I think what we were talking about, I think you're going to see a lot of people moving back to rimfire shooting too, and just back to the basics. I think we went so crazy on the other end. At least that's what I'm hoping, is that people get more back to the basics. You can do a lot of fantastic training and learning with rimfires,
Well,
it's a whole lot cheaper.
Back in the day, that's what everybody learned on. You went to camp, right? You went to like Boy Scout camp, or you went to regular camp, and you just plinked with a varmint gun, and you're just shooting a 22. Why do you think, because I actually don't know what the benefit of a non-lead bullet would be. Is it performance, or is it just like is it cost, or is it just like digging the environment, or just want something different? Or what you as a consumer, why do you even care about not
I
having a
mean,
lead
it's a
bulb.
health issue, but I mean, it's also a lot of it is that 22 leaded bullets are extremely dirty. So, you know that whenever, and some of it's powder too, but I mean, it's just a really, really dirty round. But also, it's an accuracy issue. They're trying to make, with a solid copper projectile, a highly accurate rimfire. I mean, it's not going to be accurate beyond 100 meters, but this is a precision rimfire for short range work.
Yeah,
So,
I don't remember the dirt aspect when I was a kid shooting 22, right? Like I
oh,
don't,
it's so
but,
dirty.
and I'm assuming, and I vaguely remember cleaning my gun, right? So like every once
Yes.
in a while, so I can see that from that perspective. Um, so that's cool. And I think the one thing though is I think is the reason why I think it is. I was just curious. I didn't want to lead you in a certain direction. What
Oh
you
no,
thought
you're good.
about it. What I think it is, and you touched upon it, was cost, right? So
Yes.
when you have, influencers out there, your gun guys going, hey, like we're really going to get into airsoft guns and we're really going to get into dry fire
Hmm.
and for training. And the reason why we're going to do that is because it's just too expensive to get enough rounds on target with a 9mm to
It
be
is.
able to be proficient, right? Like
Yeah.
I heard someone say that they think it's actually impossible to get enough rounds. And this was a special forces guy. So his version of
He's shooting
proficient.
20,000 rounds a
Yeah,
year.
yeah, exactly. Well, and all of his rounds were paid for 20 years or whatever.
Hmm.
But I think but I think what it is more is that people are they're going to like you said, go to the basics and they can say, okay, let's train on. So they know that there's a bunch of people going back to the 22, but
Yeah.
then, it's almost like if you date the supermodel and then you break up with a supermodel and then you start dating like a normal person, like an 8, right?
Yep.
And you always remember what it was like to be with that supermodel. So you have that itch a little bit, right? Like once you go a certain way, you can't go back. So it's like if you're downgrading to a
Is this
22.
is this a life story here, Wade? Where are we going with this?
No, my wife was a homecoming queen, so no. So my wife was a 10 out of 10. She's super hot. So I never had that problem. Uh, but no, but the thing is though, is that so like let's say that you're doing all the Gucci gear, you're doing all the AR, you're doing all the precision shooting, you're like, man, this is so freaking expensive. Let me
Yes.
get reps down with the 22. Let's give that group of people something new and shiny to shoot, right?
Yep.
That will actually be, accurate, have some advantage, but let's fill that market. So I think that's why they're doing it, is for that reason, is to fill that market.
And have you ever seen the rimfire 100-meter targets? The bullseye is 22
Right.
caliber. I mean,
Right.
I'm like, okay, takes a high level of skill to shoot that effectively anyway. And it's
Right.
a fraction of the cost. But yeah, so reading this article, the point was to keep the cost cheap so that you can still buy, and a lot of people, now that the patent stuff is expired on the 1022, there's a whole bunch of different companies making 1022s.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same gun. It's just, but it makes it really, the 1022 is kind of like a Legos gun. Like they are pretty easy to take apart.
Well,
And
you're
it's
not talking about the takedown. You're talking about the core
no,
1022,
the real
right?
1022.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can build a 1022 from scratch. And so the beauty of this is that you can those guys that are building their own rifles can take the same platform they're already familiar with, and aftermarket companies are going to make these 21 sharp barrels, and I think that it will use the same magazines too. So I mean, but it's made for accuracy, so it's going to be highly accurate, and the cost to adopt it for guys that are serious about rimfire shooting is going to be really low.
Yeah, well, but I mean, it's itching that, or it's scratching that itch of the AR Lego. It's trying to take a 22 and like let's AR size the 22.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's make that we can make it like a Lego, just like the AR. And now that opens up this huge, pretty soon you're going to see a Picatinny rail on a 22 barrel somewhere, right? Like they're like, so they're going to kind of turn it into like a mini AR basically, right? So
yes, that's the same concept.
And I don't care what Winchester says is the reason why they're doing it. Oh, we want to make it cheaper for you. Well, no, they want to open a new market and do that. Right?
Yeah, it's board
say,
engineers that need something to do.
and also too is I don't think anybody really cares about how clean it is. Like there may be like 10 people that like you, like nerds, like clean nerds like you who used to work in aircrafts, like everything had to be clean, or there are consequences.
Yes.
Most of us aren't like that, and so that's the reason why I think it's
you don't
cool.
have anal retentiveness drilled into your head.
Well, I think it's cool because for my son, my dad, he we obviously learned in the 22, but it was more like a camp. My dad just gave me a 20 gauge shotgun when I was 12, right? So there wasn't that like 9 to 12 year, from 9 years old to 12 years old, where you're like, okay, let's start clinking with the 22 and let's take you out and it's real safe. It's like, no, it's like, let's give him a 20 gauge shotgun and have him and his twin brother walk in a field and go pheasant hunting together. And he wasn't, surprisingly enough, he wasn't there. He dropped us off at the edge of the field the first time.
Lord.
And he's like, walk across and meet me on the other side. Cause he's like, I'm not going with those crazy kids with the guns. That was my dad's parenting.
Very Gen X.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason why we are the way we are, my man. Like,
Yeah.
you wouldn't even think about doing that today. Like not for your first time. The first time I ever went pheasant hunting, my dad drove us, me and my twin brother, with our brand shiny new Ducks Unlimited single shot 20 gauge shotguns, to the edge of a field, dropped us off, and says, "I will pick you up on the other side, right? Go kill
Here's
something.
a tourniquet.
Go kill something." No, we didn't have a tourniquet. I wasn't even wearing a belt, right? So anyway,
Yeah, David Spade in his book, which you should definitely read, talks about growing up a white trash kid in Arizona. He might be your brother, actually. I forgot and how he didn't have a dad, so he had his 3 brothers or whatever, and they just go out with their shotguns shooting stuff in the desert for fun.
When we moved to Arizona for high school, and when I moved to Arizona, I knew I was in a different place when because in North Dakota nobody open carried handguns, right?
Well,
like
you don't need to,
right? Everyone has a shotgun in their truck or whatever, right? Like no one open carries handguns. When we were in a Coco's, which I had never been to before, I was like, this is the finest restaurant I've ever been in my whole life, a Coco's, right? Which is like a Village Inn, basically, which is like a Denny's, right?
Yes.
So you're looking at me like, what's a Coco's? And so we walk into this Coco's, and there's like this, I would say she was like 65, 70 years old lady with a cowboy hat on, and she was open carrying two revolvers. I couldn't tell what they were, right? But it looked like maybe they were like peacemakers or whatever. But like,
that's fantastic.
Like, and she's just like, and nobody cared at all. Like nobody said anything. And I was like, oh, we're in a different place now, homie.
That's wild, man.
Arizona
that really is wild.
Arizona used to be extremely conservative. Now it's getting more purple because all the people from California are moving there. But Arizona used to be the Wild West.
I mean, Colorado was awesome too.
Yeah, and that makes me sad because I taught horseback riding in Winter Park for a summer at a YMCA camp, and we just went. I love Colorado; it's such a great state. It's just sad. It's sad to see.
It is sad to see
what's happening to that place. So,
especially it's my neighbor. Like, it's only an 8-hour drive to get in the mountains, and like it's almost intolerable even just to visit anymore. Yeah, I mean, really, it's so bad.
People just don't have an appreciation or a connection to the land. If they did, they wouldn't be that way.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it.
All right, let's go to the next thing. So you can look at this ammunition at Winchester.com, and then if you want to look at the article, it's Winchester.com support in the news, media in the news. So just go to Winchester.com and you'll see it. So
yep.
And actually, this will be kind of useful for me when I start taking Luke the Duke out, taking him shoot. He's got a couple years, like he's 6. I'm gonna give him a couple more years. He's highly impetuous and not emotionally stable enough to give a firearm right now. You got to know your kid, man. You can't pick. He can't even handle the rules of the game with the Nerf guns. We're trying to with Nerf guns. He can't handle it. He's shooting me in the face all day.
Shoots you square in the face.
Stop shooting me in the face.
It's a low bar, son. All right.
Right. So we're gonna. It might take us a couple of years with the Nerf guns to figure it out. All right. Let's go to our next one.
All right. So 10 new companies have joined SAAMI.
SAAMI is the Sporting Arms and Ammunition Manufacturers Institute. So as a writer,
I wrote about SAAMI. I wrote an article about them years ago. I can't remember who. I think it was. I don't know. It was one of my firearms contracts years ago.
Before we get
about SAAMI.
Before we get into that, though. Sorry, I disappeared there for a second. Before we get into that, though, we have to talk about the acronym. We got to find something different. The way that whoever came up with this got to kind of. I know it's since 1926, and there wasn't a lot of copywriting going on, and they weren't super concerned about the acronym.
Yes,
but SAAMI seems like it's just kind of some kind of sandwich issue, right? or it's a girl that you dated in high school that became a dancer or something. Like, I don't know. I don't think it's just not good. What was the article? Do you recall what you wrote about them?
No, I can't remember who it was for. That's the problem when you've been writing for a long time. I- You ever try to go through and scrape together all the pieces of work you've done over the years? I'm like, I don't even remember who I was writing for.
I stumble across things from time to time. I look at a stat and I think I've written like 2 million words in the
Hmm.
last couple of years, few years or whatever. And I was like, I'll come across something. I'm like, oh, this is really good. Who wrote this? It's like, oh, I wrote this. No wonder I liked
Nice.
it.
You
Um,
boost your ego a little
that
bit.
happens for me with jokes when I write jokes in writing and then I forget. And then I'm like, that's a funny joke. Who wrote that? I'm like, oh, I wrote it.
Of
So
course, I wrote it.
I wrote that funny joke. All right. So 10 new companies. But besides the jokes aside, this does seem like an excellent um, group or organization to be in. It's been around for a long time. So it has
Yeah.
strong institutional knowledge.
Yeah. So what SAAMI is, it's a big, large grouping of basically all the major stakeholders. I said that because you texted
Oh,
me about
I
stakeholders.
use that word for I use that word for in ghostwriting for a client. I
I
felt
think we
dirty.
should synergize our energy on
I
this
never use that
conversation.
word, but I felt
That's a
dirty.
horrible use.
I felt dirty using the word stakeholder. I said, I don't
But
want
it
to say it.
actually contextually is correct this time. So it's, they get voted in, and it's major players in the ammunition market, and these are not rules. And I checked the FAQs on their website to make sure I wasn't speaking out of turn. They're not rules, but they are basically create industry standards that are suggestions. They're not mandatory. But the idea,
It's best practices for the
yeah,
industry,
it's a
basically.
big
Yeah.
conglomerate of best practices, so that you have the best minds in reloading and ammunition design and manufacture, basically just pooling together their knowledge to help QC that our good products are occurring. And I mean, it's obviously worked because ammunition is so much safer now, and it's so much safer and so much better quality. So it's
Oh,
a
I have had so few malfunctions.
that are ammunition related.
Correct. Like
Yeah.
and if it is, it's probably because I did something wrong. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's almost never the ammunition.
Yeah, no, and I'll say guns too. I mean, just firearms, new firearms in general. I mean, the new firearms are bought barely ever jam, and that was not the case like in the '80s. If you bought like I'll name drop here, like a Marlin 22, because that was the Walmart and Kmart 22 brand. So that was what I learned on. And I mean, my Marlin 22s were turds. I mean, they barely ever operated right. And you seldom buy a firearm now that is a dog. They almost always work, and ammunition is the same way. So,
Well, and that's definitely something that we want because even, it's one of those hammers that's really, really big, right? Like
yes,
if you do all this work to not have a negligent discharge and then, your gun blows up, like that's no bueno. We don't want that.
that's not good. No.
No.
So the company we were supposed to mention for this one, this is one of the companies, is Christensen Arms,
There's no
and they actually,
there's no
speaking of which,
there's
they
no
are a
supposed to. We can talk about whoever we want, but they were noted as a company of interest that we're keeping our eye on, John.
well, so whatever you just said, I wholly endorse.
Yeah.
Uh, speaking of which, they actually are a precision rifle manufacturer. So if
Yeah.
you go to their stuff, they make precision rimfires and precision. It looks like yeah, they look pretty sweet. Their price points are pretty sweet too.
Who are you talking
So
about?
Christensen Arms,
Oh, Christensen's Arm. Yeah.
I had never heard of them before. They're a niche sort of high end company.
Well,
So
but that's what's so cool about this business and why we'll have a podcast as long as they'll have us because
yes, please.
there's and Christensen Arms. First of all, it's like a good Norwegian name, right?
Very good Norwegian name.
My wife is Norwegian. The homecoming queen. Maybe I told you that already. This podcast.
I
Remember?
think you did. You might have mentioned it.
Actress for 20 years, super hot, still hot.
Yep.
Yeah, that's me. I'm winning.
Yep.
Um,
Good job.
I had nothing to do with it. She hunted me down like a dog for some reason. Which
I need to find this lanky
which
guy
is
from
a
North
true,
Dakota.
which is a true story, by the way. No, but what's so cool about
Did you see it? Did she see you at like an open mic night doing comedy or something?
no, we met at a Valentine's Day party in Santa Monica, actually, of all
Hmm.
things. Yeah, and And so I was going to go on a, if you must know, I was going to go on there's something called the Pacific Crest Trail, which is the West Coast version of the Appalachian Trail
I've heard of it.
that
Yeah.
starts at Mexico and goes to Canada. And so you have to
I had a
leave.
friend that hiked it actually.
Did they make it all the way through?
I don't know if he did.
You
He's
have
a pretty
to,
prolific hiker, but
it's
I'm
a
not sure if he did.
long way. So anyway, so I was getting ready to do that hike and I had shut down my law firm. I was going to go do that hike and you started in March, right? Ish.
Mhm.
Right. And so I met her Valentine's Day and we hit it off at this party. And I said to myself, well, if I don't go out with this girl now, when I come back from this hike in 6 months, this girl's going to have a boyfriend because she's super hot. Right. So she's
Yeah.
going to have this boyfriend.
She was a homecoming queen.
She was.
So I've heard.
Yeah. I can't remember if she was the homecoming queen or she was the prom queen. I don't know. I think she's the homecoming queen. Anyways, whatever. You know what it's like. You forget all these awards, right? No, but I'm gonna get myself into trouble. She's gonna give me a call. She's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I don't know."
My wife doesn't watch these, so
that's not something I talk about very often. I don't even remember how I got into it. Anyways, but my point is to tell the story, not firearms related, is that because we only have two things to talk about today, is that I said, well, if I go on this trip, she's going to have a boyfriend when she comes back. So I said, let me see where this goes. Right. And that was 17 years ago, coming up in next month.
Nice.
2 kids, 17 years and 2 kids later. So
my wife and I've been together for 17 years and 7 kids.
yeah, you are aggressive. We're
also a lot younger.
Two is you're doing the Elon Musk. You want to put your Elon Musk. You want to put your
one mother,
genes. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's like you want to put your genetics throughout the world with as many kids as possible. But the one cool thing let's get back on task here before I get fired from this job. One thing though that's so cool about the depth of the firearms industry is that you're always discovering new companies that are doing it just a little bit different. Like Christensen Arms, first of all, their website is awesome. Right.
They have a good website.
I don't know who did it. But if you guys are watching this and maybe we'll send you a link or whatever, this opening picture is just like, it's money.
Oh yeah. It's a good website.
It's money. Anyway, so yeah, and they've been around since 1995, which is an eternity in the firearms industry right now.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's got a new thing from 3 years ago. But yeah, so they joined this. They joined it. I think it's good. I think any kind of institution that has institutional knowledge that aggregates people together, which aggregates power, which then you can have aggregates political power, is good for 2A. What do you think about that?
Totally agree. The other the 10 companies that were in this round, it's Bachstein Consulting, Christensen Arms, Daniel Defense got in on this one, Dynamic Research, HSM, Just Cause Solutions, Liberty Ammo, I've heard of them, General Inspection, Oler Research, and Q Inc. I don't know who that is. So not just ammunition companies. These are different companies from all over. Because I wasn't sure. I thought at first it was just ammunition, but it's not. It's players from all over the industry. So which is cool because they're looking at the same nut from a different angle. Like firearm company is going to look at things different than an ammunition engineer. Because you're looking at different things. So that's really cool. That's good. And it's good to have that knowledge base pooled.
Right. And again, too, it's like, and it has, because it's been around since 1926, it's almost 100 years old. Mm. It has that, it has that cash and it has that, what's the word I'm looking? Help me out here, John. It has the credibility to actually when they approach you, they say, "Hey, we've been around in this. We've been in this space for 100 years. We've seen it all. We've seen administrations come and go. Here's what we think are the best practices for the industry. Here's what we've learned over the last 100 years. If you're new coming into the industry, you can't go wrong by taking a look at what they're suggesting. So you can compress a lot of time frames by doing that.
Yeah, I'm looking at the other articles they have on here on SAAMI's website, and so they were the ones that kind of gave the blessing on Smith & Wesson's. Was it the 30 Smith & Wesson? It's what they use for their shield. So it's a 9mm neck down to a 30 caliber. Mm-hmm. So, and then if you go across their website, they have a whole laundry list of publications. So, I mean, even just for the home loader, this is a good idea to go over their stuff. So you have a better understanding of what you're getting into as a hand loader of ammunition. Have you ever done that?
Mm-mm. I've seen it.
It's really cool.
I've seen it hand loading ammunition. I've seen it done. I've never done it myself.
I had actually an employee of mine when I was still had a real job. He is a big time hunter. Like he's an African safari hunter. Like that's his jam. So we were hand loading some 338 Weatherby Magnum, I think. And that was a very cool process. So and it's easy once he has all the die set up and everything, but I would still feel a little bit, iffy about loading my own ammo.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's just this, some people, they don't want to place their trust in anything else other than themselves, right? Which I totally get.
I
In
think it
terms,
also was because for that caliber, it's $60 for a 20 round box of ammo. So it was actually substantially cheaper for him to reuse the.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that was actually his safari rifle. Like he shot a Cape Buffalo with it. I was like, dang, dude, that's rad.
I don't ever have a desire to go on a safari. Would you ever want to go on a safari and
Not a
shoot
chance.
shoot
No
big
way.
game? Why is it that you
Mm-mm.
don't want to do it?
I can barely even get a deer to step in front of my rifle. Like, why would I want to go get rejected by animals in Africa?
I have no idea.
And they scare me.
In what
They
way?
scare me. Hmm?
In what way?
Cape Buffalo. They're huge. They're violent. There's lions there. Uh, you know, just that.
Well, yeah, well, that's the thing that people don't understand about African animals. The most dangerous animal in Africa is the hippo.
Yeah, it's super dangerous. They scare me
It's so fast. Like
and extremely territorial.
in the water, it's fast.
Yep.
Like it's faster than boats.
Yeah, and on land, I think for short distances, like 40 miles an hour,
It's insane. Yeah.
and they're huge.
Yeah. No, they're like, yeah. And so like even if you had you'd have to have a gigantic gun to shoot a hippo.
Yes, and you have to hit them the first shot, or you're
Right.
dead.
Yeah.
That's why. That's why I have no interest in
Yeah.
going to Africa to hunt.
I mean, my hunting will increase as I get older because I want my son to have the same experience that I had. But if I didn't have a son, I wouldn't hunt very much at all, right?
Yeah.
So, but I'm going to keep to more towards the according to Hoyle hunting, fishing,
Yes,
deer, pheasant,
things that generally don't try to kill you back.
generally.
I'm just here to eat the animal. That's really it. Like it's not about sport for me. I just like to eat.
There,
Like that's-
I will say for duck hunting, the one thing that surprised me about duck hunting always was what I enjoyed about duck hunting was the whole, and this is what people don't understand about hunting, at least this was for me, was that the actual taking the shot was the least enjoyable part of the experience for me when I went duck hunting, right? Like, because I don't do it a lot, but it's the getting up before the sun comes up. It's like you're with your buddies, you're hiking out to where you're going, you're getting into the blind, you're setting up the decoys, there's all this kind of gear involved because you got
your senses are high.
yeah, exactly. And it's like you're just experiencing everything. And it's like in the Gladiator when he's like putting his hand on the wheat, right? It's like you just experience everything. And then there's all this anticipation, and then it culminates in you take a shot, you hit, you miss, it doesn't really matter. It's like it's just that whole experience. And the killing of the harvesting of the animal is the least important thing about it to me.
Yep.
Right. And that's what people will never understand. People that are against hunting will have either never experienced it or don't understand that.
They've never had a deer smashing their Sienna when they're just trying to drive home from the grocery store and have that, that rage factor of.
I was the second person to hit a deer. I was driving on in Los Angeles and I can't remember the road. It was like
You hit a deer in LA.
Well, it was like on Mulholland or something like that. Or like on the side of there's some road on the side of the 405 by the Hollywood Bowl that I can't remember what it's called right now. And anyway, so I'm driving my Ford F-150 and I'm driving and I see this deer pinwheeling through the air, all four limbs out at 45-degree angles. And what had happened is there's a road above me and someone had hit that deer above me and it pinwheeled. It's coming towards my truck like a ninja shooting star, and then it hits my truck, and it's still alive. And then I drive and I stop, right, like because I was going 50 miles an hour, and I drive and I stop, and then it's behind me, right, and it's still moving, and I was like, and then all these cars, these people get out in California, and they're pointing at me and they're looking at me, and I'm like, I had nothing to do with it. It fell out of the sky, so. It's like, because California, like they don't understand that deers are, they're like, oh, God, it's like you killed a person. It's like, first of all, I didn't I was the second person to hit it. There's nothing I could do. It rained out of the sky, and it is a deer. It is a prey animal. Its whole purpose in life is to be killed. So
Yes.
I need everyone to calm down.
Yeah, exactly. But no, seriously,
Pointing at me like I was pointing at me like I had like taken out a family of 5 people. Like I was so angry.
It's a deer, people. It's a deer. They wouldn't make it very long in the Midwest.
Well, I don't know how to, but how do you explain that to people though? It's like they're like, let's
If
say
they don't already get it, you're never going to get through their heads.
no, the first part, not even the hitting the deer. I'm talking about the pinwheeling through the air part. Like I had no choice. I noticed it coming out of like, I was looking at the road in front of me and something on the top of my peripheral vision. I look up and there's a deer pinwheeling through the air. And I was like, well, you don't see that every day. And then it kind of froze me and it I hit it with my truck.
I'm glad it didn't go through your windshield.
Well, yeah, it could have killed me.
Yeah. They would have been having a candlelight vigil for the deer.
And then exactly. And then all of our listeners would be denied today's content.
Exactly.
Well, all right, man. Well, I think that's pretty good for today. Any closing thoughts about what we've talked about today? Any thoughts, concerns, quibbles, complaints? You've learned a lot about me today. I had a lot of stories today.
Yes. Go to SAAMI. Every shooter, honestly, should just go check out their publications. It's worthwhile. If you like to shoot, you need to know what you're doing. And
Christensen,
so go check them out.
Christensen Arms has the blog that we're talking about, which is talking about SAAMI. And they also have an article. Their most recent article is about 7mm backcountry rifles.
I saw that. I actually saw that post. Like, ooh.
And this picture of this rifle they had on here is pretty sick.
Yes.
So
I didn't have anything besides that. I'm actually really curious about the 21 Sharp. So Winchester.
We're not talking about this today, but they have this suppressor on this gun, like 20-inch barrel with a suppressor, 7mm long gun. It's like, look at that thing. It's not a bad looking gun. Anyway, well, I like talking to you. I didn't like talking to you today. I loved talking to you today, as my son likes to say. And man, let's do it again. Let's not wait so long before we have another co-host episode, my brother.
Sounds good.
All right, man. Stay warm over there in Kansas.
Will do.